Data mining is the process of analyzing large volumes of data to discover patterns and identify trends in the data. Here is the Wikipedia page on data mining. And although it's called mining, extraction, it's a misnomer because it's about analyzing data. There is a difference between simple data analysis and data mining. For data mining, you're going to work with large volume of data. You can use data mining techniques to address a variety of questions. You have an example here. Which sociology discipline sold the most book with a 2021 copyright date? And we can actually answer that question if we create a pivot table. What is a pivot table? It is an interactive table that uses calculations to consolidate and summarize data from a data source into a separate table. And we have an example here, as you can see. So the time frame over here is grouped. You see, the morning, afternoon, and evening. And also the weekday is grouped. And then you have totals for each of the categories. They are called pivot tables because you can pivot around, you can play with a pivot table. It's dynamic. You can rearrange the fields as you're going to see, and you can analyze the data from different perspectives. Before you start creating your pivot table, the data should look right. If you have the data into columns, then you should have appropriate column label. The data should be accurate, so you have to check, see if you have any duplicates and remove the duplicates, see if you have any mistakes. And I'm going to actually show you how to use a pivot table to spot errors in the data too. Avoid the blank rows and columns and so on. And then you need to have at least one column with duplicate values like you see over here. So the weekday, you have Friday multiple times, or you have the morning multiple times, because you need to summarize the data. So summarize by what? And you need to have all these categories in order to do that. You should also have numeric values because you need to summarize, correct? So then you're going to use functions like sum or maximum or minimum, average, or the functions you need to analyze your data. We are back in Excel where we have the subtotals, and if you try to create a recommended pivot table, it doesn't work on the subtotals. So we're going to move to the books data. Like with recommended charts, you can use from the insert recommended pivot tables. But first, let's click where we have the data, and then we can hit recommended pivot tables. And it gives you some examples, and I will select number 4, the sum of total book sales by discipline. And I'm just going to push OK. And what happens, it creates a new worksheet, and I'm just going to move it over here. We can name the pivot table right here. You see you have pivot table tools in the ribbon, and you're going to have analyze and design. So you can take some time and see the options available. And right now, let's name it total book sales. You push enter. You can use the pivot table fields over here on the right, and you can simply drag the fields into the boxes. So if I want to put a copyright, I just drag it into columns. So that gives me the 2018 copyright, and I can see over here the details by discipline and then by the book title. If I do not need the field anymore, I just drag it out, book title. Another way, let me undo. Another way, Control Z to undo. Another way would be to just use the options over here. I can remove field. You can also use delete. Total book sales over here, you can uncheck it. And notice when you check numbers, total book sales, those will be numbers, automatically goes into the values, and automatically the function used would be sum. But you can go to value field settings and you can change the function from there. We can format the numbers very easily. Just right click on any of the numbers and we can go to number format. And from there, suppose we want the counting with 0 decimal places. You can edit the labels over here. So you can just go in the box and type. And I'm going to type sales by discipline. Under here, I'm going to type copyright here. Let's name the sheet pivot table. We calculated the grand total for all the book sales, and we would like to reflect that in the books data sheet in B1. I'm going to just use an equal sign to link to it. So we go to the pivot table and we're just going to click on it. And look what happens. There is a function GETPIVOTDATA, And then you have the name of the pivot table. Remember, we named it total book sales. And then it goes to A3. Okay, A3 is where the pivot table begins. So let's just push enter to finalize the formula. And then we have total intro sales. So let's see what that is. I'm going to type equal and go to pivot table. And intro refers to introductory discipline. And the grand total would be here. And I'm going to push enter. Now let's make a change. The retail price rate is 125%. So you're going to pay more 125% instead of the wholesale price. So now let's type here 125. And then you have a surprise. These numbers did not change. So we need to go back to the pivot table and make a change. If you go to the analyze, or maybe even easier, remember you can simply right click and there should be an option to refresh. And once you refresh, then you should see the change. So Control Z to undo. It was 120,233. Control Y to redo. So then the new changes over here, 120,040, should reflect also in here.